caused by leaders who overstay in power, which breeds impunity, corruption, and promotes patronage. And of course, a lot of people cite this quote.
Yes.
Has he not looked at a mirror? What is it with African presidents, and they don't realize that they have become what they thought before they were in position?
Yeah, you want me to go first?
Yes, go ahead.
I think this is the essence of impunity. This is the perfect definition of impunity.
But why doesn't he know that? And are people around him not telling him the truth? Is he saying lies?
This is being published, this remark was published even in the Ugandan media recently, several times. But the president has reached a position where he feels that so long as I control the military forces, I'm in control of the police force and the armed force. There's simply nothing else that can be done about this. And as Ingrid outlined, he uses the security organs to suppress domestic, legitimate opposition. And he uses the state's resources. For example, in the last election, the Bank of Uganda was ordered to release millions and millions of dollars, which would translate into billions of Uganda shillings, simply in order to bribe people to vote for the president. And in fact, many Ugandan analysts believe that was the direct cause of the inflation, which is hovering at almost 30% in Uganda now. Now, Ugandans like Ingrid, very brave. You saw the video of that attack on her by the security forces and the police, violently dragging her out by her breast. This is the disappointing thing that I say. Uganda's outside backers also playing a role in this by not strongly condemning those kind of atrocities and by continuing to offer General Museveni a blanket check. They cannot write off responsibility for some of these atrocities when they continue to, in essence, finance and aid and abet his regime. And he thinks so long as this can continue, he can continue to suppress legitimate domestic opposition.
He also says that he will respect the constitutional restraint and retire by age 75. Do you think that's going to happen, or will he try to make amends to the Constitution?
You just have to not listen to his words, but look at his record. He was a big promoter of the Constitution, which had a presidential term limit. But what did he do 10 years ago? He once again bribed some members of parliament, arm-twisted many of them, and got the term limits lifted. And that's how he was able to run again. So nobody should lend any credibility to his suggestion that this would be his last term.
But Ingrid spoke of women's rights. Is this not an issue of women's rights? Is this not a move towards liberation of women in Uganda? If the wife is being considered, she's a member of parliament, she's active in the community. Is this not a move forward to progress?
Obviously, she should be entitled to run if she wants to run as president. But she should have no preference. She should have no special treatment beyond anybody, such as Ingrid, for example. Why can't Ingrid run and become president if Ingrid wants to be president? Ingrid has a lot of domestic support, as you saw. Even when she was being arrested, there were a lot of people out there willing to come out and support her publicly. So why should the wife of the president have any special treatment? I think that's what people are concerned about, because they're getting special treatment by virtue of being related to the president, and they think that this may adversely impact the elections going forward.
So Ingrid, if you heard, Mr. Allimadi says that you have a right to run to be president. You have the backing of the people. So do you have any ambitions that you want to share with us on Sahara TV? Hello, Ingrid? Are you still with us? It seems like we might have lost her. Yes, we might have lost her. Let's give her a call back. But in the meantime, I just want to talk about the Coney situation and where it is right now. And for those who don't really know the issues, can you just give us a very brief background?
Well, okay. As The current 2012 video was made by Invisible Children, this American so-called NGO. And I say so-called NGO because our investigation has shown that this organization has a very unhealthy relationship with the Ugandan military, the Ugandan government, and in fact the U.S. administration. And the video summary was that Joseph Kony, the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army, is causing a lot of this havoc and violence in Uganda, and that if the U.S. should send a detachment of military units there and partner with the Ugandan army, we would be able to eliminate Joseph Kony. That would be the end of Uganda's problems. And obviously, we'd be able to show that this is a distraction. The key issues in Uganda, as I outlined previously, is a lack of democracy, a man who's been in power for 26 years, a very repressive regime, and now clearly wants to turn it into a family business by promoting the candidacy of his wife in the future. Joseph Kony, number one, is not even operating in Uganda anymore. But what we managed to show was that the campaign was a distraction by proving that, in fact, Invisible Children, the outfit that made that video, had been working hand in hand with the Ugandan regime, in fact, was spying on behalf of the Ugandan government by supplying them information about former child soldiers who had already surrendered and, in fact, had been, quote-unquote, rehabilitated by Invisible Children and was staying in one of the facilities. So they exposed him to the Ugandan regime. He was arrested, and as many people know, people who are arrested in Uganda are tortured. After his arrest, 9 other, quote-unquote, regime opponents were arrested, and obviously probably subject to torture too. And now they're all facing treason charges, and that in Uganda carries the death penalty.
Right.
So it's a distraction. It's a way to get mainstream media to avoid talking about the struggle for democracy in Uganda, which people like Ingrid Turinawe is involved in.
So with the LRA, how much of this is an issue of ethnic politics at play? From what I understand, it plays a huge factor in the history of Ugandan politics with Milton Allimadi and Idi Amin. So how much of that is in play today on ground?
I think the LRA is not a factor anymore. If you look at the Ugandan papers... No,
ethnic politics as a factor.
Obviously, ethnic politics has been a big problem, and it's been abused by almost all past Ugandan leaders, but most so today. No one has done it better than General Museveni. In the beginning, when he came to power, he said that anybody who essentially opposes him must have been a supporter of either Milton Allimadi or Idi Amin. So he used that to demonize people from the northern part of Uganda. And then at some point, when that stopped working, he started demonizing people from central Uganda, the Baganda, saying they were all supporters of the monarchy, and that's why they were opposed to him. But now you can't play that same divide and rule game forever. All Ugandans now realize that at the end of the day, everything leads back to the fact that he's been in power for 26 years, and he wants to continue this as a family business for maybe another 26 years.
Okay. And if you look at other African countries, the ethnic groups, they play certain roles. They're prominent in certain areas of society. Can you just give us a brief educational background with the same case for Uganda, the Acholis and the Baganda people? Where do they usually fall in line?
I think ethnic politics is becoming less and less of a factor, not only in Uganda, in many African countries. I think now with modern means of communication, social media, younger people, the younger generation in almost every African country, they now interact in a better way. They talk about many issues, and they find that in fact they share much more in common than they have differences. So they have less of the kind of burden that their parents and their forefathers had. So in fact, I am very optimistic in terms of Africa's future. We just have to get rid of the people that have been there for too long and have been holding back Africa's great potential, which is its youth. The youth is the future of Africa. So we don't need any individual to stay in office for like 20, 30, 40 years. Those days should be over.
Are over. Okay. Yeah. So if Museveni were right here at your side, what would you say to him?
If I had 1 or 2 questions.
Questions.
If I had,
typical journalist.
If I had one
question.
If I had one question, I would say the crime committed, in the Congo by Uganda's army is inexcusable. And I think somebody needs to pay a price for that. The 6 million Congolese who lost their lives as a result of Uganda's invasion and occupation of Eastern Congo. And I would say to him that at the very least, you should resign. At best, you deserve to be tried for the actions in the Congo. And after all, you know that you bear responsibility because you called the Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, and asked him to block an investigation into those crimes by the International Criminal Court. This was reported in the Wall Street Journal on June 8, 2006. If you know that you have liability for that action, do the right thing.
And as we've seen with Charles Taylor and Mubarak, maybe perhaps justice is making its way around Africa.
And that may actually be one of the reasons why he wants to make sure that he's serves as president and uses that as something to shield him from criminal liability.
Interesting. Yes. Well, on that note, I just want to end this and say thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I believe we lost Ingrid, but perhaps we can have her on in the future. So we had Mr. Milton Allimadi. He's the publisher of Black Star News based here in New York City. Also, Ingrid Turinawe. She's a women's rights activist and also a very active member of Uganda's opposition party. That's all we have for you on Sahara TV. Stay tuned for the question of the day when we read your comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.